Think think I did that right. This is our second time, everybody. I'm gonna check real fast. Yes, it did work. Cool. All right. Sorry for that little hiccup there. This is our second time to go live, so it's pretty exciting. The first episode went really well. If you guys didn't catch it, it was we had green screens. Rachel, the VP of Customer Success over there. So that was a great episode. Today, we've got another packed full episode. We're going to be talking about some pretty bold topics here. A little bit about AI and how it's dying and just where search is going and just sort of Jordan's story at Packer Freight. And then how sort of our integration works with Logistically TMS. But for anyone that has joined, I haven't quite figured out yet the sort of managing the LinkedIn reactions, comments, and stuff like that. But if you guys leave comments there or react, we'll try to get to it. If we don't get to it through the episode or through the show, then we'll be reaching out after that. So I'm going to welcome the guests here to the stage and change this layout. There we go. We got you guys. Welcome.
We did it.
Episode 33, I think. Right? Yeah, episode 33. Jordan, I don't see your title back there on the, or I see Jordan, but no company. If you want to fix that, just put Jordan Packer Freight. While he's doing that, Corey, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are, what you do, Logistically, everything from there.
Yeah, Corey Coogan, president of Logistically. I've been around since 2014. We sell a TMS product. It's my rubber duck.
Free sales rep.
For tech guys out there, the rubber duck is supposed to help you flush out ideas. And when you're in the shower and those you find the solution to something that you've been thinking about, and it just kind of pops into your head. Not to take things too far off topic, you use a rubber duck. It's called the rubber duck method. You talk to the rubber duck and you solve those things, and it's the same as having a coworker come over and explain to them, and then you're like, oh, I know the answer now. So those of you listening, you should all have rubber ducks on your desk to solve all your problems.
That's the birth of Logistically TMS.
It kind of is, yeah. Been around since 2014. Started as a smaller product. Started giving it to my only customers. Competitors actually wanted it, and just kind of grew it from there. Refactored. Started brand new in 2014, and targeting 3PLs and shippers, and continuing to grow multimodal LTL. We got a nice marketplace. So
yeah, we've been partnered for what's it been like 3-4 years?
Seems like longer. It's been a long time. And probably 4 or 5 years, I think, Chris.
Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about the integration and it's the evolution of it. I mean, as you know, our product has evolved, our integration has, and customers like Jordan at Packer Freight. Tell us who you are, what you do, the ins and outs.
Yeah, Jordan LaPlante, general manager at Packer Freight. We are a full-service third-party logistics provider based out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. We have been in service since 2019. We've been with Logistically since we started, and we've been with Chris now for going on a year, our second stint with Chris. So using their service offerings to help us streamline our processes and efficiencies within our organization. So
yeah, and both of you guys are out of Green Bay, which is super cool. We went up there and had a little happy hour up there. What was it, Anduzzi's? Anduzzi's right by yeah, right next to Lambeau. That was pretty cool. That was really awesome. The airport was quick too. I didn't expect that.
There's only 2 terminals. That's nice.
Yeah.
That's great. When I flew, I had to go to the TIA conference last year in Phoenix, and I got to the airport, realized I left my wallet at home, and I was able to go back home, get my wallet, come back, and still have time to kill to get on that airplane. That's how nice our airport is.
Yeah. So I want to start with this intro topic here. I was looking at a couple articles. It's funny because some of our customers and friends will shoot out just TikToks through the day and like, hey, did you catch this? It's usually there's like people bitching and moaning about freight, how cheap it is, load boards, and just all this slew of things that always go on. And what I noticed in one of these articles, and what I do, I used to YouTube stuff. Like if I wanted to know how to do stuff, like fix my dishwasher, I would YouTube it, or I would I would, whatever I needed to know, I would YouTube it. Like before that, I would Google it, and then I would have to like interpret the results and click the article, find the one that was like most relevant to my situation. I think now, like even like TikTok, right? It's a faster format of YouTube. Like it's just fucking right there, and it like picks up on your stuff, and just like the algo that's there, and all those things that just like pop things up to you. What I noticed is like, not no rag on load boards, but it's a task and it's a process. Like you have to go and search. And we've talked about this here before at Cargo Chief. Like the searching part of it is eventually going to go away, and that's sort of what we've done with you guys there at Packer Freight through Logistically TMS. That like capacity served up on a platter, right? And it's like you don't have to go and search for things. What do you guys think about that? Like the searching versus like just results bubbling up to you. I don't know, Jordan, if you want to.
Yeah. I mean, as far as we go, the biggest thing with like technology and automation now is not, I mean, the last thing we want to do is lose our personal touch to our customers and our carriers. And that's, I feel like, a false ideology with a lot of people with automation and technologies, that you're going to lose your personal touch. But what we've found is that what we're actually trying to do within our organization is like reduce the number of touches and clicks that we have on every single shipment. And like you were kind of saying, like that typical search, what trucks are available and posting loads and all that extra non-value added work, in my opinion, can be kind of streamlined through tools like Cargo Chief, where, you get that load from your customer, and now you're able to set up these projects where you're able to automatically outreach to your carriers, and you have this much more like simple solution to automate your processes and free up some of that time for your team to go, have those deeper conversations with carriers and customers, and what other lanes do they have? What are the needs that they have? What are some of the pain points that they have? When you're stuck doing all this searching and clicking and touching the order 100 times before it gets booked, I mean, you're not able to spend that time having those valuable conversations with your customers and carriers. So that's kind of how we view it right now. And we've found that we're not losing our personal touch. We're just like simplifying the process and limiting the amount of times that we're touching the shipments on our end.
Yeah. Corey, what do you think? Like, I mean, was that something you would do too? Which, I mean, building out logistically, like, obviously you knew what you were doing, but there's a lot of tools out there that you don't necessarily have to search anymore. And just, I don't know, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, just seeing how well that booking assistant's working for Jordan and Packer Freight and the other customers that are using it, I'd say it's pretty incredible, and mainly in that. And again, I'm not ragging on load boards either. But I mean, we've been hearing more and more from customers about fraud, and a lot of it stemming from load boards. So I know a lot of brokers and 3PLs and even shippers are trying to kind of move away from that because of the unknowns. It's just, if you can work with your vetted carriers to get these lanes covered, that's always going to be better than having to introduce a new vendor into the mix, an unknown entity, if you will. So it seems immeasurable to me that you can do what Packer Freight has done, and with the tools that you've provided, Chris, to be able to just rely on these trusted carriers without all that heavy lifting. I mean, why wouldn't you do that? I guess would be my question.
Yeah. Jordan, we talked about a little bit using some internal chatbot. So like switching sort of like to this AI piece, it's a hot topic. But we, when we were talking, it's sort of like this industry is kind of a laggard industry. I mean, they're still like paper BOLs and all this stuff. But how have you guys used like AI? What's your take on that whole thing? Because automation, it's more like augmentation, like really just taking out the task work from your team to really, reposition them on other business priorities where, the like AI stuff, people have a fear of like change management? How is it going to affect my relationships with my carriers, my customers, my team, all that stuff? How have you guys sort of navigated that space without losing that touch?
Yeah, as far as AI goes, that's a whole nother level and a whole nother subject. But it's like we're trying to implement more of that technology within our processes. We are starting very slowly, just because a lot of some of the risks that we're unsure about with giving your information to a third party and not really sure what's happening with that. Are you training these AI models that people can go in and grab that data? And there's ways around that and things like that. But we've started out by, we actually just started doing this a couple of weeks ago, is trying to test out some like internal chatbots, if you will, on like process management, and like if questions come up that that an employee doesn't have to go to a 50-page handbook and try to find the answer to the question. It's like, why don't we get this information into an AI model? It kind of, that way, like an employee can go to that chatbot, ask it a question, and it's going to kind of spit out the answer for them, within a couple seconds. That's kind of how we're starting to use it. And so, there's a little bit of ways to go. I would just advise everybody that when you do something like that, make sure you're thoroughly vetting the tool, because it can potentially give you some wrong answers at times. And you just want to spot check it and make sure that it is giving you the correct information. Just an example, like when we were adding our handbook to this AI chatbot, and we said after 5 years of tenure, how many vacation days do you get? And it gave us the wrong answer, and it inflated it significantly. So
no one showed up to work tomorrow.
Yeah. So
we 6 months vacation.
Yeah. So we're being very careful about that. You just don't want to feed the team like the wrong answers at the same time, but it can be very valuable as you do refine the tool and give it the correct prompts when you're asking it a question. The idea is that it's gonna, instead of them having to go find the answer and take a half hour of their time to go get it, or go get up and go ask somebody else for the answer, they can just kind of take care of it themselves.
Yeah, it's like like we were talking before, I use it sort of more to learn faster, not necessarily to replace my tasks, I guess. I mean, because that's expensive. Corey, you sort of had a take on that, right? Like, people come and ask, do you have AI such and such? What's your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're working on some carefully curated AI functions right now, but it does get very expensive. I think there's a bit of an illusion that that it's cheap, and that's probably because I can go to Chat GPT and type in a question and get an answer. It doesn't cost me a penny. But once you start adding APIs to that mix and automating these things and building it into a tool, it becomes surprisingly expensive. You have to pay for every character that goes in and every character that goes out. So as you start refining things and changing your prompt to get what you're looking for, each one of those in and out inputs and outputs costs money. So it could be kind of a scary thing, to implement something like that without safeguards, especially, and just not knowing that, what's going to come of this. What's my bill going to look like after this is out in the wild for a while? And the funny thing about it is the prompts, that you feed to these things, like it's very experimental. And some of the tools that we're building now, we discovered just adding one word that seems meaningless, the word quote. Taking the word quote out to try and get like some city states for a zip code or something like that. I mean, it seems trivial, but it would flip flop things, and we were getting places that don't exist. So we had to very carefully kind of engineer that prompt to get what we think we're going to get. But again, each one of those iterations is costing money, and it's very important to make sure that you're putting those checks in place to verify that information and make sure it's good, because that's the other part that's always scary is, we think it's right now, but is it? Once it gets out there, you really have to review those logs and verify things to make sure that it is acting the way that you want it to. So it's reliability is, it's a lot of times it's great. It's 100%, but a lot of times it isn't. And, because of that, you just don't know without checking. So I think it comes with a little bit of anxiety, especially for people that are trying to build the tools around it.
Yeah, because you guys trust us with your freight, and that's like your whole business, and like, when we, Jordan, when we turn on some of your lanes and they come through, it's like Corey mentioned the logs. There's several records every single load, and the expectation when a load goes out, well, we built it like this and we thought it went out, but in reality, whenever it was built, there was one little, like, the time was checked with not an appointment or something, and it caused it to trigger. And then, like, those are the things that we really fine tune whenever we have to roll the processes out, like Book Now and stuff. And it's that's it'd be cool to have some AI to do that for us, but that's, like Corey said, it's risky, and it's can be expensive. What do you think we're, I guess, from both of your perspectives, I'd like to hear maybe Jordan, like from a brokerage side, do you think like we're reaching the ceiling for where AI is right now?
I think as far as like some of these like tweaks that we're talking about where, we just change something very simple in our prompt and it changes the answer completely. There's some room there to improve, and that there's, we can expand upon that. But I think there's a lot of tools out there now that are with like the concept to solve a lot of different problems via AI. I think it's more just like refining those processes at this point and making sure that they're working the way that you would expect them to work. I don't know exactly. It's hard to predict, man, where it's going to go or if we've reached the ceiling, but I think more or less the tools are out there and available. It's just a matter of getting them up to speed with what the expectations are from people. I would just advise people to temper their expectations on AI until like this, everything is refined and very where you're confident in what it's telling you. So just have a little bit of skepticism when you're using it.
Yeah, I think there's room in custom built solutions, for sure. I've read a few articles though, just talking about ChatGPT, that the model, the large language model, the LLM of ChatGPT, which is basically the internet, I think at this point. And what's interesting about that, right? It's supposed to be predictive and predict like what the next word is. That's how it works, right? But it takes everything it knows, and based on this prompt, it just keeps guessing at the next word with a high probability, and somehow magically, can spit out this amazing content. I've used it to draft emails and all sorts of things. So it's great at that. The stuff that I read regarding that, the ceiling was really around that LLM, that, there's nothing left to index at that point, right? We're at a spot where it's all in there. I mean, new knowledge is going to come out. It'll get fed into the model. So it will continue to evolve as we are evolving.
Yeah.
But, how much further, can that go as far as applying creativity to come up with new solutions using AI and machine learning? I think there's a lot of room there. But, aside from just being expensive, to consume some of these tools and off the shelf solutions, it's expensive to build them. Engineers are expensive, especially good ones, and especially ones that are, here domestically hired in the US. I mean, they're not cheap. So, one of the things that we're looking at with all of these possibilities and things we hear from our customers is, it's the age old build versus buy. And I think that's where TMSs like us, or even a company like Packer Freight, it's in a lot of cases, I think it just makes sense to integrate and use a tool that's dedicated to that one function. And that's, I'm sure, why you see so many, TMSs and other systems really across all industries with integrations into all of these tools, so that, the team of 100 engineers who's working on, this AI tool, like, we'll never be able to build anything that's as good as what they're building, because they're specializing in it. And just like they couldn't build a TMS, as good as what we have, because that's where we're putting all of our, eggs into that basket.
I saw an article is actually released, published yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. I happened to stumble across it that search traffic, I think it was by Axios or something, that search traffic has dropped by more than 15%, where like Chat GPT or AI referrals have increased by like 5.5 million across the year. So I'm looking at a chart. I wish I could share it. I'll figure out how to share stuff next time. But so just saying words over here. But that's crazy because man, like in a perfect world of a broker, like how much AI can you have? I would think that it's really, and Jordan, you tell me, but like, because I think Corey and I want to say you guys are like building like a quote tool or something, like an auto quote, if you want to talk more about that. But like you could get, let's just say, a quote from your customer, an email, and you have an auto rater and it rates, and then they say yes. And then you have something that builds the load. And then you have something in your TMS that sets the appointments. I know there's like queued, I think is how you say it. I'm not totally sure, but like they have an appointment setter and you can like auto schedule that. And then your loads just automatically go out and your carriers can automatically book. And then the rate con auto executes. And then now you have tracking that is like auto tracking. And then fucking, what is it, like document processing automated? Like, they're all pieces here. How much more automated can you get? Beyond that, people are always looking for ways to like grow their business. I think there's probably some room there, like to win more freight maybe. But how much further can you go? Like what's y'all's take on that?
Well, I think a lot of what you said kind of falls into that fallacy of AI, right? Aside from the document thing, nothing that you described is really AI.
Right.
So it's a buzzword, and
yeah,
I think people are just branding just regular old programming and algorithms as AI now, because I've seen a lot of tools when I look through it, and I wonder like, where's AI involved in this, right? Definitely like document processing is huge, and that's something that we're getting started on as well, so that if somebody uploads an invoice, a carrier invoice, it's going to be smart enough to find the invoice number, the invoice date, the amount, and pull that off digitally. Obviously you have to train these things. The challenge on it though is full truckload carriers, they'll upload this combined document, and it's got 3 scale tickets, a BOL, a POD, an invoice, and in no particular order, and sometimes in between pages 1 and 2
landscape. Yeah,
right. So training a model on all of those things, you need AI for that, I think, to do it efficiently. And there's some tools that existed before, but they're very brittle, because it has to very carefully get those mappings right. It's actually looking at coordinates on the document. So they were very unreliable, but that's a perfect use case for AI. Dealing with images in AI is expensive, more expensive than text. So, again, that's another tool that sounds great and is great. We're going to try and do it in a way that we can offer it at an affordable price. But the tools that are out there that deal with it, they're not cheap. So you can look at these automations and say, this will save me this time, but the cost could end up being the same as hiring somebody. At the end of a year, depending on your volume. And I think that's just something people need to understand is these solutions are not going to be cheap, for anybody. Maybe over time the cost may come down, and probably will, but right now, they're definitely cost prohibitive for smaller companies.
Yeah, Jordan, in one word, would you love to just come in and have your freight booked and just what do you do? If freight's just like getting EDI'd from your shipper, what do you do? Just manage rules and configuration, I guess, at that point. So now you're just like an analyst. I don't know. That's crazy to think about, isn't it?
Yeah. For us, at least, we are implementing tools in kind of each step of the way from quote to cash that help automate the processes. But really, they're tools to help our team make decisions, make more well-informed decisions, more than anything. So I think there's tools. There's so many tools out there, and I know we've talked about this before, but it's really, there's a fine line in determining what's the best fit for your organization. What are the differences between the tools? What works? What's just going to work the best for you? It's a very hard decision and thing to kind of grasp your hands around. But the last thing we want to do is become a digital freight broker. So we don't want to just have people coming in and being analysts. We want them having those real conversations with our shippers, real conversations with the carriers. Yeah. And that's what these tools are really helping us do, is make more quicker decisions, more well-informed decisions. And it just frees up some time for them to have those deeper relationships and create new relationships too.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you a quick story on AI. Several months back, and how you need to just make sure you're fact checking it. I was using it. I gave it our ideal customer profile, and I said, "Hey, can you give me top 50 prospects for Packer Freight based on this, and the other thing?" It gave me a list, and these were companies, based out of Wisconsin. That's a big target for us. It gave me a list of 50 companies, and I'm like, "Damn, I've never heard of any of these companies." So I'm like, either I just don't know who's out there, or I don't know. So I started researching it a little bit, that list, and I went down the list and I looked at those top 10 prospects. I couldn't find anything on them. And I went back to ChatGPT and I'm like, "Hey, I'm having a really hard time finding information on these companies that you provided me." And it literally came back and told me that it lied to me. And that it just wanted to give me an answer. Those models are trained to give you an answer, whether it's right or wrong. And so you have to train them to be instead of just giving me a bullshit answer, just tell me you don't know the answer to it, or you're not capable of doing this. And it'll listen to you, and it won't do that anymore. But it's just it baffled me that it just gave me this list of shit.
I think that's a great tip for everybody listening that is using ChatGPT or anything else, that you can add to your prompt. If you don't know the answer, don't make something up.
Yep.
That's a great tip, Jordan.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I usually, when I go to chat, I'll say act as a VP of SaaS or act as a VP of marketing in logistics and give them a prompt, and then I'll say enhance this for SEO or just be more creative or whatever. But I've never, did it say I lied to you? I didn't know it can lie.
More or less, it pretty much said, I didn't really know the answer to this, so I made this up, is pretty much what it told me.
Wow, dude, that is insane. Man, that's crazy. Wow. That's wild, dude. I'd never thought about that. That's a good tip. What do you think? So let's shift gears here a little bit to implementation, because we talked about some things. What we do for y'all is big. It's a big change for what you guys do, but the outcome, as long as we're all focused on what we want, and it's obvious, either you automate and scale or you drown in the outdated processes. How do we, what was y'all's take on change management? What were some of the limitations and hesitations, I guess?
That's by far the most difficult part about implementing a new tool into the system, is you're asking people to do something different than how they've always been used to doing it. So it's really just trying to explain the benefits and how it's going to help them, and it's not going to replace their job. It's going to allow them to make better decisions. And once they start doing it and see some success from it, that's when things really start to get rolling. And, that's just on internally here within our team. But then you have obviously the change management on the outside piece, which would be, on the carrier side. And, they're used to getting an email from somebody saying, "Hey, I got this load available. You guys are usually doing it. Are you going to be available next Tuesday?" And there's just like this email exchange that's taking time. But for them to be able to just get an email saying, "Hey, this load just popped up. You can book it now." There might be they might not quite understand. You just have to have that conversation up front with them, be like, "Hey, we implemented this new process." And that's probably the biggest piece, is at making them aware of the change and kind of what the expectation is moving forward. And then once they do start to use it, again, just as it was internally, you see a lot of success and some good reviews about it. We've pulled a few customers on this automated freight booking through Cargo Chief, just say, "Hey, how do you guys like it? Does it work good for you?" I haven't gotten a bad review. Once they start using it and they see how easy it is to use, it simplifies the process on our end. It also simplifies the process on the carrier side. So it's been very encouraging. It's just really getting past that initial hurdle of like having that upfront conversation and how it's going to help them, and getting them to actually dive in and use it and set it up the way, like setting up those projects and getting things kind of streamlined for them.
Yeah. And that's, one thing is that this booking freight traditionally, is just a load board, and they call and they see their load posted and they call in, and they could be 19th in queue. And they're a regular carrier for you. They just didn't, nobody reached out to that carrier for whatever reason. Maybe somebody else built the load and then somebody else is the ops rep on it. And I think even for carriers, when we're working through some other carrier profiles, we'll ask them like, "Hey, this is setting you guys up as a primary carrier for Packer Freight or whoever it is." And they're like, you guys have had some strong comments from carriers, like, and you can share some of that in a sec, but like carriers they're very favorable of it, because they tell us like, "So you mean we're not going to have to see our freight on a marketplace anymore? Like we're not going to have to see it out on a load board?" Like, yeah, keep sending it to me every time, because rather than me waiting for you to call me, because the broker already knows that carrier is going to take the load at what rate. It's just a matter of finding that 2 to 3 minutes through the day to call. And even in like you guys are, what sort of business model is it? Is it, I forgot, is it cradle to grave or split or both? I think it's
split.
Both, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So in that case, like somebody's building the load and the other person is like, there can be a lag between that. Maybe that person went to the restroom or played ping pong. I don't know, but that it can cause like some time delays. And I don't know, what sort of things have you heard from your carriers? They rant and rave about it all the time, I know.
Yeah, like I was saying, I mean, the carriers that we have pulled on the process, it takes a little bit for them to kind of to get used to it and make sure it's working the way that they would expect it to work. But once everything is set up like a well-oiled machine, it really, I haven't heard any negative feedback. One of the carriers even was like, "Hey, is this process here to stick around?" In a positive way.
Yeah.
So like those are the types of conversations we're having with the carriers and the type of feedback we're getting.
Yeah. One compelling case study. I remember when Chris and I came to visit you guys at your office last fall. I remember you guys talking about these kind of low margin loads that came in every week from one customer, and there was like 5 or 6 of them a week. But because the margin was low, they were just always kind of ignored and turned down. And then with the booking assistant, I remember that it was like it was zero touch. So now this low margin load just became almost like free money. I mean, as long as everything goes well and there's no hassles, that's those low margins just keep piling up. And as our sales guy likes to say, the crumbs make the cake. And that's for you if you're listening, Matt. The crumbs make the cake. He told me that once, and I've always thought about it. Like, it's such a great expression to keep in the back of your head, because it's true.
Yeah, it's I mean, especially in today's market, dude, you're losing by, I mean, somebody told me they got a regular lane that they had, they were underbid by $7, I think is what they said. And you're losing loads on by $7. Like you man, like, and high volume, 30 loads a month. Like, I mean, when you talk about how can I pay the carrier the same and pass the savings back to my customer to make sure that that's my freight. And the only way to do it is to have a lower cost per load. Because if you're like, I think when I was up there, Jordan, you guys like posted a load out, and I think I forgot who I was sitting with. Oh shit, was it Zach? I think I was sitting with Zach, and he was like, so he was saying, so I just build this load in Logistically, and then what? I'm like, just, you don't have to do anything, just wait. And so rather than going to post it, he had the same carrier that he's been using replied, sent him an email and says like, hey, like I can do this, $575 or whatever, and is it low margin freight, but if you're fielding 20 calls, you're only going to book one of those. So the other 19 is a whole lot of noise for you to even work with. And in low margin freight, your time is your money. And, you're also ruining the reputation you have with your carriers and your brand. So if you're able to like, hey, yes, carrier, I'll send this to you every single time. Let's call it $50 in margin. Like, no one's going to hem and haw over that if it's zero touch. Like, it's just going to come through. Carrier, no, they're like, yeah, the expectation set of, yeah, just send it over every single time you got it for this rate. And then like right there in Logistically, the carrier gets assigned to it. The load offer goes, or the rate con auto executes to that carrier. And like, why would you do anything different? It just baffles me. And y'all size like range of freight brokerage. It's like, what do y'all do? Like 2,000 loads a month, somewhere around there? Like,
yeah, somewhere right around there. Yep.
And I guess for Corey, like a question for you, how does that vary, from what Packer does and like, their size? How does that vary between like company sizes that, that use Logistically, or maybe it's prospects who come in that are smaller or larger? Like what are their expectations of things, and how do you guys approach that?
Yeah, I think a lot of them would do great with your tool. We talk to pretty much every customer about the plugins we have available, how they can help them. They don't all take advantage of it. And it kind of reminds me of a situation like 5-6 years ago, when MacroPoint was just a couple years old, and it was really starting to gain traction. And we reached out to our customers and said, would you like us to integrate with MacroPoint? Would you use it? And almost all of them said, no, it's too expensive. But they have, one or two people on the phones all day doing check calls, right? So they're paying their salary, benefits, PTO, and just the space they take up in the office, computer, all those resources going towards a human. So now it's much different. I mean, our largest customers are all using MacroPoint or some other tracking tool. We have one built into our system as well, but they're using that, and check calls are just they're dwindling down, and people just aren't doing them, like they used to. I think this is kind of the same situation where, once they start to see the value in it and see that I'm using headcount to do all these steps that we've always done, and it's probably not necessary, at least not on all of our loads. So I think there will be a change as time goes on, and people start to see the value in that and hear more about it. It's just hard I think to conceptualize that it can be as smooth as it is, and rightfully so. People get sold things that aren't, like talking about the AI, again, but there's the perception of what you're going to get, and then there's what you get. And usually perceptions are way higher than what, what you're actually going to get. So those expectations get in the way. And in my opinion, I think it's just people don't trust technology until it's hit that critical mass. Now they feel safe. It's at the tipping point, and it becomes mainstream to operate that way.
Yeah, and that's like how Jordan, this was sort of our second stint running through this like full integration. But like, that's kind of how we looked at it, right? Like, let's roll it out to a certain amount of freight. And then now we set goals and milestones to where you're on, like, now it's replacing a full human essentially, and at a fraction of the cost. And it's like, we're on pace to like blow that out of the water, which is fucking awesome to see. And like, I think this takes us to another conversation of overselling. I think, and like, we had a conversation about overselling, and sales reps will do anything to get the sale. But for us, and what's unique, I think, is that we really shoot for success, like with those milestones, until we get to a certain point. Then, like, we can start opening it up to more freight. And I don't know what's some things there. I guess we kind of talked about it, Corey. My power might go out. I'm gonna just share that right now. There's like a windstorm going on outside, so I keep seeing the trees like about to hit the power lines. I don't know what's gonna happen, but if it does, stick around. Hopefully, it doesn't knock us off. But I guess to the overselling thing, like, you guys, Corey, you guys have had to walk away from some prospects because, whatever reason, but some are locked in. And I think for us, somebody actually asked me this morning. They asked, "Hey, we're looking for more shippers. Do you guys do that?" I'm like, dang, no. Like, it's a pretty easy thing to just stay in our lane. And how would you define like your ICP? I guess your ideal customer profile, and who's the right fit for Logistically?
We've got plans that really try to push down that barrier of entry. We do get calls from people that we know they don't need a TMS, and that's where those expectations come in. Where our guy that handles sales came from another TMS before this. And they were incentivized to sell. So and once they closed the deal, they got their commission, they had quotas, and I sold. Now I'm done. That's all they had to do. So it was commonplace to just yes to whatever. And then let the implementation team and the product team deal with the fallout, the unhappy customers, people bailing. They got their quota and they got their commission. So that, I guess, that's type of structure in a sales organization kind of sets things up, for that type of environment that I personally, I don't agree with that. So, we do turn away people that we know you just got your authority. And we get the same question: does your system come with customers? And, and we say, of course not. Don't spend a dime on any technology. The fact that you're asking that question means that you shouldn't be spending any money. Like, you got to get yourself a customer before you can do anything. And sometimes that question's followed by, okay, how do we get customers? And, like, this is somebody who's starting a brokerage, and then we tell them you go to the Chamber of Commerce and start knocking, get a list of manufacturers, start knocking on doors, but they're going to be one of 20 people knocking on doors. So, that a big part of what we do is just really trying to set expectations and making sure that someone's going to benefit from this tool, that they actually need it. And we're not going to spend all the money we're making off them on support, educating them and trying to teach them how to run a brokerage, because that's not what we do. But to answer your original question, ideal customer, I mean, we've got some that are coming from brokerages, starting their own thing. So they're really small. Maybe they only are moving 5 or 10 loads a month. And we're great for that. But we've got customers that are doing $80 to $100 million a year in freight, and we scale to that too. So any 10 to 20 million is a great number, for us. But we definitely take bets on some of the smaller ones that we think, have the potential to grow because of their pedigree or just the experience that they're bringing to the table. And we're scalable. We'll work for anybody. We worked for Packer when they were starting out, and they only had a few customers, and now they've got a bunch, and we're still working. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. Like, because I just found out the other day that you guys have. I mean, that was like the only TMS, and like that's pretty rare to find. Like, we stuck with this TMS, because one thing I do know, you guys, like, y'all turn stuff around very quickly, and like everybody appreciates that. I guess Jordan, what's like your what's your favorite part about Logistically? No pressure.
I mean, the biggest thing, there's a lot of benefits, clearly. No, Corey and his team, they're super flexible. They're willing to work with you. They're willing to listen and integrate. There's so many integrations that they offer. So even if they're not going to build something out themselves, they're willing to integrate with others that are doing something similar that what you're asking for. So they've been great to work with when it comes to all that stuff. And the TMS has continuously evolved over the past 6 years that we've been with Corey. So they're constantly releasing new updates. If you have a suggestion, you're going to be heard. It's really a matter of, what's the lift on that upgrade that you're looking to have done, and if other customers are going to benefit from it as well. And there's a lot to promote logistically. I mean, they're just good people. You can get a hold of Corey, and he's the president of the company. They're just really easy to work with.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So I think, if there's anything last, I guess you want to say, Corey, any last advice for, not like they're dying or anything, but any advice for anyone listening that you would have on AI, rolling things out or a new TMS transition, stuff like that?
I would just say to do your homework, to be skeptical and ask a lot of questions about how things work, about reliability. And verification, especially when it comes to AI. If you're talking to a sales guy, just find out, how do they know it's right? How do they know it's working? Because a lot of that stuff is a black box. And there was even some regulation being proposed, which this is just general AI, but using it in HR, using it for resume searching and candidates. They found that the AI evolved to profile against minorities, right? Which is kind of weird that AI did this, and they didn't know why. So then they tried to adjust it, and it actually made it worse. So I know that there's some proposed regulation to say you got to open up that black box so that we can understand how it's getting to these decisions. So if you're shopping around, that's a good question to ask: is it a black box, or are you able to look at issues we may have with wrong data and determine why, so it gets fixed and it doesn't just permeate and continue, through life, giving me, doing the wrong thing.
That's or giving people 3 extra months of time off.
Yeah.
That's wild. I didn't, that's a great approach because we have I don't know, 4 tools that we use to look at the logs and understand the footprint of that load and where did things go wrong. And I don't know that a lot of companies dig into that stuff to make sure that you're successful. A lot of times it's usually just here's the tech, good luck. And then you never hear from me again. But it's, I think that's a really good point. Just to really ask your TMS or anyone and why things go wrong, and if they have a safeguard against it, or how do they look at that stuff. I forgot to mention to everybody, we're doing these sort of things called minis with partners like Logistically, to where at the end of this we do a quick 2 to 3 minute show and tell of why Packer Freight really loves this, and sort of the actual TMS and some of the integrations that they have, the good components of it and things like that. So let's see exactly what everyone loves about it. Let me see if I can. I think when you share your screen, it will give me a chance to throw it on stage. Hopefully, it doesn't break anything. Figure this out.
Yeah, I'm going to also just add into with the technology, automation, and AI. Crawl, walk, run. Temper your expectations. Don't expect that coming out of the gates you're just going to get exactly what you were expecting out of it right away. There's going to be a ramp up period, and I think it's very important to understand that with any piece of technology or automation out there.
Yeah, and that the pricing is in line with those goals.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
always you don't want to get slapped with a $40,000 bill all of a sudden, and it hasn't even worked yet. I think that's the thing too. Like people can be, it can be misrepresented because, like Corey said, the sales is just going to try to get the sale, and like doing both sides. Like we understand that if this is a heavy lift, I have to like set the expectation that I'm going to be doing the work for it too. So it's can't just cross it over the finish line. Corey, did you figure that out yet?
Yeah.
Oh, there it is. Now it's popping up here. Let me add
Waiting
it.
for you, Chris.
Yeah, there it
You
is.
see it?
It was right on cue. I see it. I think yeah, we're good. All right, give us a show
Yeah,
and tell.
this is really, I guess, the heart of the Cargo Chief integration. Aside from entering an API key, it's a little underwhelming, and I think that's on purpose because it is so simple. Before I get too far, I'm going to make a plug for our LTL marketplace. We've been touting it. It's been great for a lot of people, getting some very competitive rates. So check it out. Check us out if you're looking to compete in the LTL arena. Just kind of reduce the chaos. We're saying we're unlocking LTL. That's kind of been our bit. But back to this. Just back to, I guess, the use case that was described earlier. So Jordan, somebody on Jordan's team builds a load. That load gets automatically sent to Cargo Chief. When they come back into that load information, and we're just looking at this particular order for HNO furniture in our demo environment here, they're going to see carriers under this bid section. So and this bid section is pretty nice. You can actually add carriers that fit this service area, which we have a note here. So by default, this is going to show carriers that have the origin and destination in the service area. They have the equipment that you need and service the mode, or you can choose all. But you can also find those by tags. So you can tag your carriers and just get the Midwest carriers or the East Coast carriers, whatever that may be. So you can mix that in if you wanted to. But when Cargo Chief gets that request, they just send these automatic bids right back into the TMS. So in this case, Cargo Chief sent a $3,000 bid from AAA, 32 from ABC, and 3250 from Lineway Transit. So in our platform, you have a couple choices. You can accept this bid, and that's going to go back to the carrier. They know that they're going to pick up this load. They can get the rate con. Everything's really pretty automated at that point, and the pickup is issued. But the other thing that you could do if you think 3,000 is not so great, I mean, we could put in a counter bid and say 2,500 and add a message. You can do better.
or oh, you want all of them?
And we send that, right? So now we've got this logged interaction with AAA Transport on this bid. And we didn't have to do anything because Cargo Chief brought it right to us with this rate. So chances are through Cargo Chief, you're probably just going to accept it because this has been pre-negotiated. But it's really powerful to be able to have all of this right in the TMS. It's not just through email. So you can come back to this anytime and you can see that these were delivered to the intended recipients and when. So we've got reports around this stuff as well. So you can check out some analytics and see how the bidding is going. But there's also this book it now feature, which I think is even more compelling. And Chris you didn't bring that up today, but I think it's a preferred carrier, right? On particular lanes get set. So when Cargo Chief sends us these carrier bids, they're sending us one, and it says that, this is booked. So we know that it's been booked with this carrier. That's zero touch for Packer Freight or anyone else using this. So there's no accepting a bid. There's no dispatching or sending a rate con. It just comes in, carrier's booked, assigned, they get the rate con. Everything's automated, and that's it. You can wipe your hands of it, zero touch.
That's badass. The like staying in your TMS like that. We get a lot of people like, hey, we saw you're integrated. We just want to stay in our TMS, and this allows you to do that because you can. I think the cool thing is you can even send a message back to them right from your TMS. Like that's awesome. And then just like Jordan, you guys have there's a lane out there. I think y'all do like 20 times a month, and if you're building 20 loads and assigning those carriers, that can be pretty high in time. And this just automates the whole process. You just build the load, and all the loads get sent over. They all, the carrier can even see like all 20 and click all and select all and book, and all the rate guns get tendered over. So it's I mean, just thinking about your carrier's experience, it's very, very different. And you know, like Jordan said, we haven't really heard anyone that's pushed back. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and keeping it in the TMS too, as opposed to email. You know, not only can we report on this and analyze those metrics, but one of the complaints we heard before we rolled this thing out was that how difficult it is dealing with email. Right, you may have 20 loads you're trying to cover. Now you've got 20 email threads going back and forth with, you know, maybe 4 or 5 carriers per load. I mean, there's, you know, hundreds of emails. Just to cover these loads and trying to parse through those. I mean, I can see how people would get confused and possibly think, oh, you know, I booked the wrong carrier on this load. I meant it to be this load. Very error prone. So definitely keeping it in the system is I think by far superior than relying on email, which it can be unreliable and just a burden. I think we could all agree that email is a burden.
Cause more work.
Yeah.
All right, Corey, appreciate it, man, for that quick demo there. Jordan, Corey, it's been a pleasure, guys. And for anyone else listening, check us out. You can find more about Logistically on LinkedIn. Go to their website. Same for us if you want to hear more. And if you're a shipper or a carrier and want to improve your experience, reach out to Jordan at Packer Freight, the also a sister company of the biggest nuts in town, right? I think it's something like that.
That's right. Yeah, Packer Fastener.
Yeah, here we go. It's a pretty cool place. If you're in Green Bay and you're a carrier and just want to stop by, it's a pretty cool nut just sitting out there out of their office.
We literally have the world's largest hex nut sitting right outside our building. So
yeah,
main attraction of Green Bay, Wisconsin.
There we go. There we go. All right, guys. Appreciate it. And everyone else, we'll catch you on the next episode.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Take it easy.